This is the Word to Stand On for Life with Pastor Ron Arbaugh.
Your word is sharper than any two-edged sword, and it cuts deep into my heart.
The Word to Stand On for Life is a radio ministry of Calvary Chapel in San Antonio. A live call-in show here to help you answer your questions about the Bible and how to apply the Word to your daily life. For more information on Calvary Chapel, visit our website, calvarysa.com. Get your Bible questions ready and call in now to 210-340-9585. It's The Word to Stand On for Life with Pastor Ron Arbaugh.
Welcome to the show. Thanks for tuning in. I'm Pastor Ron Arbaugh from Calvary Chapel in San Antonio, Texas, and this is the Word to Stand On for Life, a program dedicated to taking your phone calls and answering your questions, Bible questions, questions about stuff in your life, whatever's on your heart. All you need to do is dial 210-340-9585. If you're outside the local San Antonio area, you can call toll-free at 877-630-KSLR. Numerically, it's 630-5757. You can email questions to us by emailing questions at calvarysa.com, or you can use our free Calvary Chapel of San Antonio mobile app. And as always, if you are driving in your car, the safest way to call is to use the free KSLR mobile app. Hit the Call Now banner at the top of the screen. You'll be connected directly to our studio producer. And guess what? Paula is here. Hi, Paula.
Hi.
What's up?
Well, I'm just kind of rushing over here. You know how and I know you hate when I say this, but I don't know. I didn't have time to look at it. It says to mourn with those who mourn and rejoice with those who rejoice. Well, that's what I'm doing today. And so, it's okay. It's good. So, anyway, yes, I'm glad to be here because usually you say that. And I've been really glad to hang out with you this morning and this afternoon. And I'll hang out with you right here on the radio program. And then tonight...
You're stuck with me, huh?
I am, and it's a good thing. So I left my notes at home because evidently I was distracted by a couple of things, but that's okay. I kind of know what I'm going to talk about. So... Let me
take a deep breath.
Yes, because I just got here. And
let me say this. Mourning with those who mourn is really hard. Mm-hmm. Sometimes if we're not on top of our game, rejoicing with those who rejoice can be even harder.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I think that's one of the things Christians need to learn. We need to be happy for those who are being blessed. And we need to be sad with those who are struggling. Mm-hmm. And it's okay.
Yeah.
You don't have to have the magic words. You don't have to fix it.
Yeah.
But we got to learn to do both. One of the things that we've learned here at Calvary Chapel over the years is that we will have a great tragedy and then great triumph minutes later sometimes.
Yeah.
And, we'll lose somebody and a baby will be born, or we'll lose somebody and somebody will get married. And it's just the way it is. And, we just had Mother's Day. And, so many churches are afraid to celebrate Mother's Day because there's so many women who want to be mothers who can't be, or they lost their mother. And, we've just got to learn to rejoice with those who rejoice and mourn with those who mourn.
Mm-hmm. Well, I had all of that. You can hear the thing in my throat. I had all of that in like 10 minutes, and then I just finished praying just now, praying for a lady about her daughter, and so... But here I am on the radio program to encourage people.
Well, we encourage people sometimes by going through the hard things. It's not just a pastor and his wife's life, but everybody's life. We have to deal with all of those things as they come. And our lives, Paula, for all these years, has been just a diet of really great things and really horrible things and all the things in between. And sometimes it's almost a manic experience. We'll be looking into somebody's eyes and they're just full of the Lord and what He's done, and then somebody whose life has come crashing down around them. Sometimes the result of their own sin, sometimes just the result of people that they care deeply about making bad decisions. And that's just what life is like.
Yeah. So, I already know what we're going to have for dinner. That's
well, we're not going to talk about that on the radio show.
Okay, but I don't have to worry about that. But yeah, last Thursday we had a funeral. We lost, Nida. And then ever since, like I went to a baby shower that Saturday, and there was probably 30 ladies there, and there were 5 pregnant women. You getting ready to be baby dedication king again, Pastor Ron. But yeah, like you're saying, rejoice with those who rejoice and mourn with those who mourn. It's always a cycle of life and tragedy and rejoicing. And, last week, Erica graduated. She's one of the 5 that was at the baby shower. And that day, she was there to celebrate, with for Kaylee. And then she left to go to her own graduation from college to get a master's in accounting. And just, it's like, woohoo, you need to go to your graduation. Go ahead, bye, love you, But yeah, and she's due in June, and so, what a joy. And she's got a sister who's pregnant, and I think just a couple of months, sister-in-law, just the next month. She was at the baby shower. And then 2 others who are related. One I don't think we can announce yet, but 2 that are related are both pregnant. And then there was another girl that I had never met before. Her name was, I didn't even meet her. It was too busy, so I didn't meet her. But yeah, so I'm trying to calm down. Sorry, because I just prayed for somebody.
Yeah. It seems like we're in another cycle of lots and lots of babies. Do you remember when Pastor Chuck was here? And he noticed he was sitting out in our mini foyer out there. And he said, well, Ron, seems like you have a lot of pregnant women around here. And I said, kind of stuck my chest out a little bit.
Oh, yeah, I remember this.
And I said, Pastor Chuck, I said, I am the king of baby dedications. I said, I bet I've done more baby dedications than anybody. And he looked at me with a smile on his face. He said, I'll take that bet.
Yeah.
And instantly I thought, oops.
It's humbling.
What am I talking about?
Yeah, what am I talking about? He's been doing this a lot longer, and more people. So yeah, rejoicing. I just passed by. Now, this is a rejoicing and a sad thing all at the same time. The senior class is right outside your door, getting ready to rehearse for the play that they're going to be doing, I guess, tomorrow. Yeah, the 16th. And I just looked at them all. I was like, I don't want to look at you guys. You were just kindergartners a month ago, and now you got your nerve to be graduating, and they just look so grown, Ron. So that's the good part, and I went to the basketball and cross-country awards banquet. That was last weekend, and how many of those kids have really applied themselves in this school, and how they grade in the top 10, a whole bunch of them in the top 10 of the national scoring. There were about 5 or 6 who had 4.0 as an A. These guys are 4.12, 4.2 something. I think one of them even had like a 4.4 something. I'm like, wow. Do we have any dumb kids at this school? That's not a nice thing to say, but goodness.
Yeah, I told you yesterday I signed the year-end certificates for the principal's honor roll and the pastor's honor roll. Yeah. 3.5 is the principal's honor roll, and 4.0 is the pastor's honor roll. And there were so many of them. I said exactly the same thing. I went to the church office, handed them the certificates that I'd signed, and I said, do we have any dumb kids in this?
That's not nice to say, but that's what I thought. But yeah, it's like,
but it's just
cool.
really, really good. The Lord has challenged us year after year after year with this free school, and yet every penny was worth it you see these kids grow up, and you see the young men and women that graduate. So many of them, Paul, are completely committed to Jesus Christ, and living it out even among their peers. And you just think, Lord, what an honor and a privilege it is that you allowed us the privilege, the honor of being a part of this.
Yeah. Another thing too is now that the college kids are out of school, they come back here. I just ran into Josue. And he's got his visitor badge on. He's here overseeing and, probably going to help tutor or help in any kind of way. There's a whole bunch of them. So much so that last summer, it's like, are you just sitting around? Or no, I'm waiting for them to tell me what to do. If I see a need, but there's that many that are just so excited to come back here. They love this school and what it has meant to them, that they're in the process of we want to give back. We want to give back. So, yeah. I got a call yesterday from one of our ladies. You know how their husbands sometimes get other jobs and have to take them away? Well, they're starting to text me and call me. Okay, when is Vacation Bible School? Because they're coming back. They're coming back for their kids to be in the Vacation Bible School. We have one lady who comes from Laredo, I think it is, and she and her two boys, they get a hotel for the whole week instead of driving back and forth so that they can be in the Vacation Bible School. Yeah. It's such a, not that Calvary Chapel San Antonio is the only church, but we know better than that. But the ones who have come here and experienced being here, it's the people. It's not the building, of course, if you've seen our building. But they've experienced the servants here who really put their heart and soul into taking care of these kids and making sure they know Jesus.
Yeah, Paul, let me take a quick trip down memory lane for the sake of the audience. Because I think sometimes it's important to review what God has done. I know I'm in a place in my life right now where it's really important to review what God has done. And, we, when I was in Bible college, the Lord gave me a burden in my heart for education. And I'm not an educator. I did go to college, but I didn't graduate from college. I went there to play baseball.
Yeah.
The Dodgers didn't care about a degree, and they never called. But my point is that as a teacher's aide in Bible college, I was grading papers, and I saw that these kids couldn't construct a sentence. They couldn't spell. And I just thought, my goodness, some of these kids have graduated from Christian schools, and how are we ever going to share the gospel effectively if we can't construct a sentence? Mm-hmm. And that's just where it started. It's like Nehemiah. Nehemiah had this burden in his heart. God put it there. He didn't have to do anything about it. Well, I'm in California, and this thing just won't go away. So when we come here, I think it's in our second year or maybe third year here, the Lord let me know it's time to start a school. And the man that would lead the school, the principal, was ready to separate from the Air Force. Education was his profession. And so we sat down and talked about it, and he and his wife just got sort of a grip on that vision. And so the next school year, we started Calvary Chapel Christian Academy. We had grades K through 6, 31 kids. We had no money, had no curriculum. We had no idea what we were doing. And just when we're starting, okay, how are we going to do this? How are we going to afford it? The Lord spoke again to my heart as clearly as can be. He said, this school is going to be free. Freely you have received, freely give. And that sort of set in motion many of the most difficult trials we've ever had. We're a church. We've never had any money. We don't ask for money, and we don't even take an offering in the church. And yet God said, do this for free. And the first year was hard. It was really hard, but everybody was excited. Second year, it got even harder, and people got less excited. And then there were some people in the church that decided, well, that's a crazy vision, and that's not God. That's Pastor Ron and his ego and all that stuff. and there was some people who tried to divide the church over it. And I just said, look, this is the way it's going to be. If you don't like it, here, go. And now we're in our 25th. We're finishing our 25th year of the school.
Crazy, right?
Obviously, we added a grade a year so that we could keep up with our older kids.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Did we have? This is funny. What I'm asking you. Do we have as much space as we do now?
No.
When we first started, right?
We first started. We didn't have the place where my office is, where we're doing
in the
this,
5th and 6th grade class.
And the 5th and 6th grade.
Okay.
That wasn't. This was all added. In fact, you can go out to the sanctuary. And it ended at the end of that sound booth. So we didn't even have those extra doors at that time.
Okay.
But we had 31 kids, and the church wasn't big at that time or anything. We didn't have a lot of people. But I found out really quickly how expensive a free school really is.
It's like, God, did you really say?
I'll tell you, you talk about staying on your knees and praying. And so we committed to the Lord that as long as there's a church, there's going to be a free school. And everybody said it was crazy. There's no way you can do it. And again, a group of people tried to divide the church over it. And the reality is that just year after year, God has brought these faithful servants. All of the teachers and all of the staff members come from our church. It's not, we don't hire teachers, and we're not looking for teachers. We're not actively recruiting students because why would we do that? It's free.
It's free.
And it's just to watch these kids grow. And now we're at a place where we have, if my mind is right here, I think we have 4 former students who are teachers here. We have other former students here who are aides here. And we've got people of all age groups. I signed certificates yesterday for teachers and faithful years of service, and the numbers are overwhelming. People are just so faithful, and they've suffered along with us. You know, we pay our staff, obviously, but they don't get paid what they're worth, and sometimes they don't get paid. That's just the way it's been when things are difficult, and there's always these financial tests. And yet, I don't think there's one of them that would give it up and not do it all over again. Because we've been able to see the hand of God move time and time and time again. And as you know, you and I talk about this, I think one of the most important things for a vibrant Christian life is to experience the hand of God moving in and through your lives. They've had an impact on children's lives that they never would have dreamed possible before.
You know, I was thinking, our staff, because some of them don't want to be paid and have never been paid. And I was thinking, you know, soon as, because they had kids in the school and stuff, some of them have had kids in the school and stuff, but some of those same said people have had their kids in the school and they've been graduated and gone for a while. And yet it's still a calling with just as much energy as before. And so, I mean, that's been impressive to me.
Yeah, I think that's important to point out. You know, calling is something you can't say no to. And what we actually try to do is talk people out of it. You know, are you sure this is what God's calling you to do? Because if it is, then you're going to have to weather the tough times, and there will be tough times. We let everybody know that up front, we're going to try to pay you this, but there's going to be times when you don't get paid. There's going to be other times when you don't get paid what you should be getting, and they're able to count the cost before they make that decision. And they have been so faithful, as you said. We have a half dozen or so people that have been working here for 10 years, 20 years.
Half dozen? That's more than that.
I mean, who've never been paid at all.
Oh, I see.
Who didn't want to get paid. They're doing
it
it just because they understand it's a call of God. So you get to see God's hand move in your life, and that's how you know that His power is real, His promises are yes and amen, and they share the rewards that they're going to receive in heaven for their sacrificial service. David said, "I will not give that to the Lord which costs nothing." That's kind of the motto of those teachers and staff members, the aides, who are here faithfully, day in and day out, year after year after year after year. And children, not just kids from our church. This isn't just a school for saved kids. We're not creating a little mini heaven or a teenage place of safety, of refuge. We have unbelieving kids that go to the school, and we want them here. And the reason is because most of them end up getting saved.
Yeah. It's kind of, I'm laughing now, I'm kind of chuckling because so many we're a family. Our church is a family. And when they come, when the little kids who call most of the teachers uncle or auntie, when the kindergartners come to school, the parents are already saying, okay, you can't call Miss Kenyatta Squishy, or whatever you call her now, Auntie Squishy. No, you have to call her Miss K or Miss Kenyatta. So they've been practicing because these kids, it's like family. For you, it's really, it's a big deal, but it's not a big deal in class because they just call you, hey, Papa Ron, and then a lot of times they just call you Mr. Candy, because you give them candy. But the parents are already practicing. You have to call them teacher or Mr. or Miss, when you come to school. But
Mr. John or Pastor Elaine, those kind of things. Not
uncle and not auntie, but it'll take a while. But that we're a family. And, on the night that the kids speak, the graduates speak to the church, some of the teachers, even at graduation when the kids talk, some of the teachers are kind of blown away because they've come and just done their calling, they've done their job, but down deep inside, until these kids actually say what they have experienced, some of the teachers don't even realize how deeply they've touched these kids and or their family members. It's a really cool thing. So, free school, but the payback is huge, and I wouldn't want to miss it for anything. So cool. You weren't at the basketball and the cross country awards because it's on Saturday night. You stay home and rest, which is what you should do. So you bring us a good message on Sunday. Don't mess us up, Pastor Ron. It was so encouraging because some of the boys, especially basketball, had never really played a team sport like that, basketball. They really hadn't played at all, and to see the progression. But anyway, what I'm trying to say is that some of them were struggling even with their grades, but because they wanted to play basketball so much, they kicked it up a notch on their own, and nobody even came close to being kicked off the team. And to see the numbers of kids who want to play again next year is amazing.
It's one of the good things about having your own school. You got to make the rules. Like you play, but you got to study, and you got to be a good citizen. And there's always that I don't want to miss out on what I'm able to do here. So they work hard.
Yeah.
It's just a blessing. This is the end of our, as I said earlier, our 25th year, and we've gotten pretty good at what we do. But we're only good because of the Spirit-filled brothers and sisters who are leading the school and teaching in the school. And one of the things that we made a commitment a long time ago to the Lord was we will not entrust these kids to people we don't know.
That's right.
So they're going to be part of our church. We're going to know they're born again. We're going to see the fruit in their lives. And, that's been pretty much the MO from the very beginning. So it's been really a good exercise, but we've seen God's hand move. It's been really, really hard, but it's been unbelievably fruitful, and the blessings are just nonstop.
Yeah, and you were saying that we're pretty good at doing what we do, knowing how to do what we do. And yes, that's true. But they're encouraged. You encourage us all to use our gifts, because nothing's the same. I mean, it's the same as far as the time, the word, that kind of stuff, the schedule. But we have new art classes. I went to one of the art. In fact, this coming Saturday is our art expo here at Calvary Chapel, San Antonio, 3 to 5. Anybody wanted to come and check out the art. But we have 2 and 3 different art teachers now, different mediums of art, I guess. Well, I went to...
You're looking at the least artistic person.
Yeah, I know, me too. But I'm like, this is amazing. You guys are amazing. They're doing pottery and painting and mosaics, and yeah, it's just amazing.
Hey, you can hear the music. We've got 30 minutes left in the show. We would love your calls, questions, or comments in the second half of the program. 210-340-9585 or toll free 877-630-KSLR. We will be back in 2 minutes.
Welcome back to the Word to Stand On for Life. We're taking your calls at 340-9585 or toll free 877-630-KSLR. Now, here's Pastor Ron Arbaugh.
Welcome back to our final half hour of the Thursday date day edition of the program. Paula is live in studio with us, 210-340-9585. Paula, now you have something to talk about.
What you like? Take it away.
It's yours.
Well, you had a question about biblical femininity, and I was thinking biblical femininity. I was really thinking I should ask some of the girls to come in, ladies, pastors' wives or leadership ladies to come in and give their interpretation or their definition of biblical femininity, because right away one girl came to my mind. I told you, Sabina Croft. Her name is, I think it's Wagner now. She got married. Anyway, that girl shot and killed a deer.
Skinned it.
Yeah. You know, she married a guy. She can shoot, like I'm telling you, she can shoot. She owns guns, and she married a guy who likes guns too, and reminded me of her dad. And but when they
live on a farm.
They live on a farm. She manages it for her family members. But she's an outdoors girl. Cowboy boots, belt, hat, the whole bit, gloves, everything. I mean, she's strong. But when it's time to get dressed up, oh my goodness. Beautiful. As girly girl as you want to be. But biblical femininity, sometimes we think, you know, they got to be soft and demure, and no, you know, think about.
She's a very feminine, godly woman.
Oh yeah.
Whether she's in her farm outfit or cowboy boots or dressed up to go somewhere.
Yeah.
She loves the Lord with all of her heart. First time we talked about school, she's a graduate of our school. Her dad is our science teacher here at the school. Yeah. And what a beautiful young woman they've raised, and now she's really thrilled. She's it's hard to describe the relationship I have with her, but after she got married, she came. She just popped in on a Sunday, unexpected. She lives far away now, and she gave me a big hug and just wanted to say. I said, "Oh, how are you doing, Bina?" And she said, "Oh, I'm doing really, really." I said, "So how's marriage?" And she goes, "It's like having a permanent sleepover."
That's what I'm talking about.
That's it. That's biblical femininity.
Yeah. And then those ladies who are. You know, you got the moms who they're the Uber, you know, they're the chef, they're the housekeeper. I mean, they do everything. That's biblical femininity because, you know, in a lot of cases, they've accepted that role. Who's better to raise your kids than you, you know? Praise the Lord if you have a husband who can work and make enough money that you could just stay home, that's what we did. We decided that whoever made the most money would work and the other one would stay home.
I got a little scary because that was almost me. 'Cause when you were being recruited to be on the Supremes, the replacement when Diana Ross left the Supremes, I thought, wow, she could be a big rock star and making all this money, and now I'm going to be home with the kids. Yeah. Boy, our kids are so blessed that never turned out.
I was talking about that with somebody, maybe today or yesterday, saying, yesterday when I went to go on my walk to the new church building, one of my neighbors and his little boy said, "Oh, where are you going?" I'm like, "I'm on my walk." "We'll go with you." I was like, "Okay." So they went the whole way, so I didn't really get to pray or anything, but I was telling him, because he's the stay-at-home dad. His wife works. And he was in the military, and he's had, some brain trauma, and so he's stay-at-home dad. And he loves it, and it makes more sense. His wife is better suited to be in the world. That's what his words. And he's better suited to be at home and train up his children. But I was telling him, it was just the opposite with you and me. You happen to make the most money, but so you'd go to work. But as soon as you came home, there was a whole lot of days where I said, "Okay, these are your kids now." And I was telling them, I said I'd said that and did that because if the kids turned out messed up, I didn't want it to be all my fault.
Yeah, that's a good example, biblical masculinity. It doesn't mean that we have to fulfill a certain role. Mm-hmm. It means we have to do what we've been called by God to do, and we need to do it with all of our heart and with all of our strength. We have some pretty legalistic Christians in our world, and the man has to be the breadwinner and the man has to do this. And that's just not always the call of God. Mm-hmm. We got to give people the freedom to do what God is calling them to do. Mm-hmm. And in this particular case, you came home for your prayer walk yesterday. And it's like,
a 3-mile walk, and the little boy is 5. Yeah. So we were both holding his hands, and he was trying to keep up and stuff. And then on the way back, the little boy said, "Dad, can you put me on your shoulders?" But yeah, and
there's some pretty good hills for a little boy to climb.
There is some really good hills.
People like that little boy and me have short legs.
It's 3 miles. It's 1.5 miles out, 1.5. And poor thing, yeah. Anyway, he was cute, but yeah, they kind of interrupted my prayer time, but it was a divine appointment.
Sure.
Yeah. And got to talk about Jesus, of course, and pointed why I walk up there, and told him the whole story about it's on hold and stuff like that. And, if he's a Christian, would he please pray, and maybe one day his child will be a part of our school. Because he says, well, they're never going to public school when they get to junior high. Once they get out of grade school, they don't know what they're going to do. So I told him.
Yeah, that's too late sometimes.
Sometimes it is anymore, huh?
Yeah, back to your topic.
Okay, so biblical femininity. So I was looking up I got online, and the unique design. That's my favorite word, unique. Men are men and women are women, but biblical femininity emphasizes that God created women with specific strengths, talents, and capacities that differ from men. I'm not going to be you, and you're not going to be me. I'm a WOMAN woman. I'm sorry, that just came to me. But
hear you roar.
You know it, huh?
That's for people our age, that reference.
Mm-hmm. And, I'm stronger than I think I am because of the Holy Spirit. I have talents given to me by God that I'm still even finding some out, in the capacities that differ from you. You and I are so different, and yet we really complement each other quite nicely, I think.
Yeah, it's, biblically there's the example of Priscilla and Aquila. And in the Bible, when the name is mentioned first, it takes sort of a priority position. And of the two, it seems Priscilla was the most gifted, especially when it comes to teaching. And Aquila was sort of her helpmate. It doesn't mean that she was taking the lead. It just means they were both doing what God called them to do. And God used them in marvelous ways. He used them in the Apostle Paul's life. He used them wonderfully in Apollos' life. And over and over and over, there was that grounding. Do what God has equipped you to do. And the godly woman is going to be somebody who uses her gifts to glorify God, not to get anything for herself, not to get people to say, "Oh, look how gifted she is," but to bring God glory. And I think that's sort of the summary of what a biblical woman is, or what biblical femininity is all about.
The helpmate, or helpmeet, it says in some.
King James, yes.
In Genesis, it describes God creating Eve as a helper for Adam, highlighting the importance of a woman's role in partnership with her husband. I think about, when the pastor, whoever, turns you around when you get married, I'd like to introduce to you the first time Mr. and Mrs. For us, it was Mr. and Mrs. Ronald Arbaugh. I'm Mrs. Ronald Arbaugh. And I'm really good with that.
You don't need your own identity?
I'm Mrs. Ron Arbaugh. That's good for me. I'm still me. Like when we're separated, well, even when we're together, I'm still me. But even when we're not together, I'm still Mrs. Ronald Arbaugh. I'm still the bride of Christ. And I really keep that at the forefront of my mind.
Paula, one example I'll never forget is with our grandkids in California. One of the grandkids asked you a question, Grandma, what's your favorite color?
What's your favorite color?
And our older granddaughter in that family sort of interrupted, and she said her favorite color is whatever Grandpa's favorite color is. And that they could see that. It wasn't two individuals that were together. I was introduced to speak and at another church in another state, and the way the man introduced me, he said, it's hard for me because whenever you think of Pastor Ron, you think of Pastor Ron and Paula. And so now I'm just introducing Pastor Ron, but hey, here's Pastor Ron and Paula. and that's the way it ought to be in a marriage. We have no individual agenda. We have no individual goals. When two become one flesh, joint heirs of the grace of life together. Yeah. That means there's no individual grace. And the man or the woman in a marriage who wants to do his own thing, well, God wants me to do this, I'm going to do this, I don't care what you think, or that misses the point. There's no individual grace. And the woman who wants to roar, to go back to that reference, is missing the will of God for her life. And it's not that God makes her subservient. We're all subservient to someone. But the idea is, this is the will of God for you. And if we embrace that will, then there's fruitful blessing. If we resist that will because, well, I deserve this or I deserve that. There was actually a Calvary Chapel pastor who, he and his wife were at odds for some time about a couple of things, and she was getting more and more frustrated. And one day he started preaching in a message, and he got to a particular place, and she stood up in front of the entire church, and she said, well, I think it's about time. They hear from you all the time. It's about time they heard from me. And, well, needless to say, he didn't remain a pastor very long.
Yeah.
But there's just no individual direction. How can two walk together unless they agree to do so? Yeah. And, to be unequally yoked in ministry, to be unequally yoked in life, but to be unequally yoked in ministry, imagine what it's like if you were pulling a cart. The unequally yoke is a reference to the agrarian culture. They would yoke oxen together to plow fields. But imagine if you had a lamb pulling one side and an oxen pulling the other side, that cart would just go in circles. And that's what a lot of Christian lives are, because the man won't accept the responsibility to be the spiritual head of the household. The woman won't accept the responsibility to submit to the leadership of her husband, not because he's worth it, but because she trusts God, and that's what he says to do. And we get a lot of flack because we teach the Bible here. And when it comes to issues like that, well, don't you think that's an unsophisticated position in the 21st century when women have proven they can do all? No. God knew what women would be like in the 21st century. and he doesn't change for us. We're supposed to change for him.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the problems, of course, is that our culture has decided that is sexist and oppressive, and none of that is true.
Yeah. And a lot of their kids don't turn out so good because nobody is taking care of the kids. They're all, and I have to talk to a lot of 17, 18, 19-year-olds and some even older, because mom and dad were always doing their own thing and the kids have been left out in the cold. And so that's another really wonderful thing about some of these kids coming to school here. They get to see faithful men and women who teach here.
Consistency,
that's right. And they're not just coming to church and being different at home.
Yeah, Paul, there are two things that we tell families that their kids need to see. They need to see a mom and dad submitted to the will of God. If the husband or the father or the mother, if they are rebelling against God's word, God's will for their lives, it shouldn't surprise them ever that the children grow up as rebellious.
Yeah.
I mean, it just shouldn't be. That's what they've learned and what they've seen.
And heard.
So there has to be that consistency in mom and dad's life. The other thing is that the mom can never be the needy one in the family. And we see that a lot. We pray for the lost, the hurting, the hungry, the broken, the needy, and the confused. The mom, the wife, can't be the needy one, because that sends a message to the children that mom is discontent. And it's okay to be discontent. It's okay to complain or grumble against God. And it's just not. The children, when we give birth to children, they're the needy ones. Mm-hmm. And we're supposed to be the steady ones, the consistent ones. And when we see these young women grow up and they're so needy, and then they start having kids, well, then it's almost like a competition in the house. And the kids are always the ones that get pushed away. Now, I know there are people out there thinking, well, what about the woman? Where does she get? She gets her filling from the Lord. Mm-hmm. She gets her attaboys from the Lord.
Yeah.
And, we either really believe what the Bible teaches or we don't. And the choices we make in situations like we're talking about demonstrates whether or not we believe.
Yeah. I was thinking, sometimes, not sometimes, maybe sometimes, that takes time to grow into that. Because, I'll just use me as an example. We were going through difficulty financially after you got saved, because we lost everything. And so, how are we going to make ends meet? So I went and worked at the bank again. And I remember one time you were saying, I don't want you working. The kids were older, and so I thought, well, and I'm saved, but I wanted to work anyway to make sure and it was difficult. The Lord made it difficult on purpose, and so once I said, okay, if I go down with him, I go down with him, Lord, you got me, and he's taking care of us.
And see, it's times like that you learn that he really does have you.
Yeah.
Hold your thought. Let's take a break. We got Ray on line 1. Ray, thanks for calling. You're on the air.
Oh, hello. It's too hot for me and just getting in your zone, isn't it?
Perfecto, you bet.
It even rained today on me, in this heat. It rained on me on my street for about maybe 5 minutes.
Well, good.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah. How you doing, Ray?
When I was young, I remember standing out and it was raining on one side of the street, and then down the middle of the street, dry all the way on the other side.
Yeah, I've had that
and
too.
I could, I was there, so get too wet, just go across the street, You brought to mind here, when you were working at the bank, and then it came up in my mind about, well, why the bank, and you were strapped for money, and I think it was one of those bank robber guys. And, well, why do you rob banks? Because that's where the money is.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
when you were working at the bank, did you didn't go by Mrs. Pastor Ron Arbaugh? Did you go by Renee?
No, thank you for remembering. But yeah, he wasn't even saved. He wasn't Pastor Ron then. I shouldn't say he was saved, but he wasn't Pastor Ron.
Yeah. Well, you knew what I meant.
I sure do.
You know, Ray, it wasn't long after that God told her to stop, and she started her own little cleaning business, cleaning houses and businesses of some relatives and things like that. Yeah. God was teaching her while I was away at Bible college. Paula was having her own Jesus college down in the valley, and God had a lot to teach her. So that's part of God's plan. For a while we were separated while I was learning one thing, being prepared for what I'm going to do, while she was learning something where she was.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when you were, I don't know how many horses you had, race horses and all. I wondered how involved was Renee there with the horse, liked them or not.
Yeah, but Paula never really liked the horses because of the flies.
Yeah,
and because of the and because of the mud. But in my life before Christ, Paula was sort of a work widow. I worked 100+ hour weeks, and Paula's job was to take care of the house and take care of the kids and take care of me when I came home. And obviously that didn't go very well, because things, without Jesus being at the center of things, it wasn't very good. So, but see, in all of that, we've been prepared for all of this. And it's really a neat thing. Yeah,
thanks for asking this question, Ray, because I'm getting ready to share my testimony on June 2nd when we do the Sweet Summer Devotions. And so what's been happening, I've been looking over my testimony, and instead of it being so much about poor Paula, it's more about, look what God has done. He was always there. Even as we're talking about working at the bank, not wanting... Because Ron, at one time, he was thinking, we could buy a ranch and have our own horses and stuff. I was like, I don't want to live on a ranch. It stinks. There's flies. No, thank you. But all the things that have happened in our life has brought us to this place. Even cleaning people's homes in California. When we got here to Texas and neither one of us had a job, I was going through the book of Ruth.
I had a job, it just didn't pay.
Yeah. I was going through the book of Ruth, and the Lord was saying, because he told Ron never to go and get a job. And, of course, at that time, I was thinking, that's not fair. Why has it always got to be me doing the work? No, anyway. So I cleaned apartments in California and homes. And so when we got here, the apartment complex we lived in, the lady who did the cleaning, her husband got real ill, and she started missing a lot. So they looked on our application and saw that I had a business of cleaning homes. That's how I started cleaning the apartments, and that's how we got to have the meeting rooms for free. That was, if I cleaned, then we didn't have to pay for the meeting room. So God used all of that. And then the meeting room, setting that up, when we got our church, we knew how to do even that. So, yeah. God is smart. He knows stuff.
Paul, we're
coming always there, even if it's in the background and we don't realize it.
That's right.
That's exactly right.
He's always there, Ray. God bless you, dear friend. Thank you very much for the call. Paula, we just hit the 3-minute mark, so what do you want to close with today?
Well, I was thinking nurturing and relational, because, we women are a lot more nurturing. And so I think that's why women have the children. We let our kids ruin our bodies and, eat from us. I mean, nursing and stuff. Like you said, it was a good thing that you made the most money, that I would be home to nurture the kids, because you probably would have just said,
suck it up.
So we're more nurturing and relational.
I was trained by my dad.
Mm-hmm.
Don't rub it, Ronnie.
Yeah. Yeah, like today, you were saying we can look into people's eyes and we can see the joy, and then we can look into other people's eyes and see the pain. And man, yeah, that both of them are great, but that's one of the gifts that God has given me to be kind of, what can I do to fix it? How can I help you? It's kind of like that.
Let me correct you on that, because I'm the one who says, what can I do to fix it?
Oh, yeah.
And you're the one that always says, how can I help?
How can I help? Okay.
And that's such a great strength that the Lord has given you.
So that's a biblical picture of femininity. And for all of the ladies out there, we know the one about submit to your husbands as to the Lord, and that's establishing the order that God has created. But every woman, every person has been given a gift by God. Nurture that gift. Find out what it is, but then nurture that gift, and don't just sit on it. The fact that I know I have the gift of encouragement, now the Lord's given me some teaching gift. I can sing a little bit, I can hold people and cry with them. Those are all gifts.
Yeah, this is your gift, Paul, and we're about out of time here. But, you came in here this afternoon with a broken heart, and God used you to exhort and encourage others. So that's a great gift.
Thank you.
Hey, thank you for tuning in. You've been listening to the Date Day edition of The Word to Stand On for Life. I'm Pastor Ron Arbaugh from Calvary Chapel in San Antonio, Texas. And Lord willing, I'll be back tomorrow at 4 o'clock on AM 630 The Word. We'll see you then.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for spending this time with Calvary Chapel's The Word to Stand On for Life with Pastor Ron Arbaugh. The Word to Stand On for Life is on every weekday afternoon at 4, and Pastor Ron invites you to find out more about Calvary Chapel at calvarysa.com. The Word to Stand On for Life was sponsored by Calvary Chapel of San Antonio.